The desert remembers everything, every bullet fired, every promise broken, every soul lost beneath its merciless sky. Out here, justice is as rare as rain, and betrayal cuts deeper than the canyon walls. Flames rise and fall like whispers of vengeance, leaving nothing but ashes and bitter truths in their wake. I've walked this scorched earth long enough to know one thing: those who fight monsters risk becoming monsters themselves. But sometimes there's no choice. Sometimes the past you buried crawls back from the grave demanding blood and sacrifice. And when that day comes, when your nightmares finally catch you, the only way out is straight through hell itself. A muted, dusty sunrise spread across the Arizona sky. The early rays cast long shadows on the cracked highway, stretching endlessly toward the horizon. The only sound was the low rumble of a big rig engine, an 18-wheeler carrying modest freight pulling behind it the dust of untold miles. Behind the wheel sat Alex Reeves, her dark hair pulled back in a utilitarian ponytail, a battered baseball cap shielding her from the glare. Her gaze was fixed on the road, though she barely seemed present. Memories layered over the asphalt in front of her eyes, visions of sandstorms, half a world away, the pounding of mortar rounds and the thunderous echo of chopper blades overhead. She blinked rapidly, swallowed hard. This stretch of desert reminded her too much of Syria. The desert always did. On her forearm, an old Delta Force tattoo peeked out from under the sleeve of her t-shirt, a silent testament to what she once was. As the road unfolded, she reached over to turn on the radio. A burst of static filled the cabin. She fiddled with the dial, not so much to find a channel as to disrupt her train of thought. Finally, a faint station crackled in some local station, broadcasting classic rock. An old Eagles track drifted through, incongruously bright and melodic against the harsh desert. Her eyes flicked to the side mirror. There was no one behind her for miles, just the shimmer of rising heat. For an instant in her peripheral vision, she saw something else, a face behind, a scope-tinted goggles reflecting a scorching sun. The memory jolted her. She clenched the wheel jaw, tightening. Not now, she whispered to herself, pressing a palm to her temple. Not here. The memory receded as quickly as it came. She refocused on the road, white-knuckling the wheel. She could not keep it from coming, though. Syria loomed in her mind, a stark replay. Desert camouflage. The team of 8, heavily armed but under the radar. The dryness of the air so thick you could choke on it. In the flashback, she was lying prone behind a half-crumbling wall, her rifle scope fixed on a distant building. The sense of tension in her body was so palpable, she could taste it, adrenaline mingled with the tang of dust. She saw the anxious face of her teammate, Sergeant Miller, an earnest man in his late 20s with a wife and a young daughter back home. "We're pinned," Miller hissed. "We need extraction now." Then came the explosion. Her mind's eye erupted in flame and shrapnel. Through the haze, she thought she saw one of her own aiming at her. No, that wasn't it. She had turned her scope toward a rooftop. A friend. An enemy she never knew. The face behind that scope was so close, so personal. Her recollection blurred. The last coherent image was the meltdown that followed the entire building next to them, collapsing under mortar fire, the thick smoke, and her own frantic screaming as she realized the team was cut off. She saw Miller's body falling away from her. Everything slowed. Saw the face of her younger sister Vanessa superimposed for a brief second, though Vanessa had never been in Syria. Then blackness. The truck jolted over a pothole, snapping Alex out of the flashback. Her heart pounded in her chest, sweat beating at her temples. She exhaled, reminding herself she was here in Arizona, far from any war zone, at least officially. The small diner came into view off the left side of the highway. A sun-faded sign rose from a crooked pole. She put on her turn signal, force of habit, even though no traffic followed, and steered into the gravel lot. The diner's squat building had once been white, but now bore a layer of grit that matched the desert's color palette. A few battered pickups and dusty sedans dotted the parking area. Alex parked her big rig off to the side, well away from the smaller vehicles. She turned off the engine, and for a moment the silence felt louder than the motor had been. She popped open the door and stepped out, stretching. Immediately, she was enveloped in the scorching desert air. She grabbed her duffel from the passenger seat and headed toward the entrance. Stepping inside was like entering another world. The diner was dimmer, cooled by outdated but functional AC units rattling overhead. The walls featured desert-themed decor, a mural of a cactus-studded sunset, a few old sheriff's badges, and tattered wanted posters for comedic effect. Only a handful of customers sat at booths. Behind the counter, Hannah Parker, the 55-year-old owner, spotted Alex. Her lined face brightened into a warm smile that reached her eyes. "Well, look who the sand blew in," Hannah said, voice tinged with maternal affection. Alex forced a grin. "Hey, Hannah, missed your coffee." Hannah tilted her head. "What you miss is some home-cooked eggs, child," she beckoned. "Your usual booth is open." In a corner booth, Ray Mitchell, the burly former cop, was sipping black coffee, scanning the room with an air of quiet vigilance. He gave Alex a silent nod of acknowledgement. Alex nodded back. She always felt a quiet sense of safety in this place, though she wasn't sure why. She took her seat at a booth by the window, setting down her duffel. A waitress, presumably new, approached, but Hannah waved her off, coming over with a mug of fresh coffee. "You look tired," Hannah observed, gently placing the mug in front of her. "Long haul," Alex wrapped her hands around the coffee mug. "Yeah, a run from Dallas. Thought I'd stop by here before delivering in Yuma. Needed a friendly face." Hannah's gaze flickered sympathetically. "Always got a place here, you know." Alex mustered another tight smile. She did know. On her most hopeless days, this diner had functioned like a lifeline, an oasis of normalcy. Hannah, a widow who had once been married to a local cop, had an instinct for lost souls. She'd practically adopted Alex 3 years ago, when the ex-Delta Force operator first rolled in, looking like a ghost. "Eggs Sunnyside," Hannah asked, already moving off. "Hash browns and bacon." Alex nodded, letting her shoulders relax. She didn't realize how hungry she was until the smell of sizzling bacon wafted across the diner. Ray got up from his stool and walked over, settling in across from her. He was in his 50s, hair graying at the temples, with a stoic face that told you he had seen his share of violence. "Heard about a scuffle at that truck stop last week," he said quietly. "You good?" Alex gave a non-committal shrug. "Just some drunks messing around." "I'm all right." Ray studied her a moment. "I know you are," he agreed. "But you don't always have to be the tough one." The corner of her mouth twitched at the unsolicited advice. She changed the subject. "You still looking after the place at night?" He nodded. "Hannah's all I got. We lost the cops that used to swing by in the evenings. Now it's me and my sidearm." "Lucky her," Alex said, raising an eyebrow. Ray grunted, took a sip of coffee. "We do what we have to." The peaceful lull inside the diner was broken by the jarring sound of motorcycles pulling into the parking lot, engines revving louder than necessary. Alex glanced out the window. A small group of men wearing dusty leather jackets dismounted and swaggered toward the entrance. "Desert vipers," Ray said under his breath. "They've been making a nuisance of themselves." Alex remained silent, her gaze narrowing. The door swung open. In strode Victor Rattlesnake Crane, a tall man with grizzled hair, sun-etched skin, and a coil of tension in his shoulders. Behind him were 3 others, similarly dressed, part biker, part paramilitary. Hannah emerged from the kitchen. Alex saw her posture stiffen. "Victor," Hannah said in even tone, lacing her greeting. "Miss Parker." Crane's voice was calm, the polite veneer not matching the menacing aura he carried. He surveyed the diner's interior, noticing Ray and Alex. "Busy day." Hannah moved closer, planting herself behind the counter. "What do you need?" Crane's smile never reached his eyes. "Just a friendly chat. You've had my offer for a while. We both know this place isn't making the money it used to. Time to sell." Ray set down his coffee mug. Alex could see the tension in his forearms. Hannah kept her voice even. "Not for sale." The other Desert Vipers fanned out, one leaning against a jukebox, another scanning the booths. A tension crackled in the air. Crane walked up to the counter, eyes drifting to a framed photo on the wall, Hannah's late husband in uniform. "You're alone now," Crane murmured, tapping the photo's frame with a ringed finger. "But I can help you." "We don't want your help," Ray cut in. Crane turned slightly, his posture dangerously relaxed. He flicked a glance at Alex, but she stared back impassively, giving no sign of interest. "Times are changing," Crane said, returning his gaze to Hannah. "This highway won't stay quiet. My men will keep this place safe under our protection." Hannah's voice shook slightly. "That's what you said last time." "My answer's the same." For a moment, nobody moved. Crane's eyes hardened. Then he straightened, nodded, and motioned to his men. "I'll be back," he said. "Think about it, Hannah." They left. The rumble of their motorcycles faded into the desert air. Alex exhaled. She glanced at Ray, who rubbed the back of his neck, looking more troubled than he let on. "It's getting worse," Hannah said softly. "They come back every week with a new threat. But I'm not leaving." Before Alex could respond, Hannah turned and headed to the kitchen, letting the door swing behind her. After she finished her meal, Alex found Hannah out back near a small kitchen garden that wilted in the desert heat. The older woman was leaning against the side of the building, taking in the scorching sun. "Hey," Alex said gently. "You okay?" Hannah drew in a breath. "I'm fine, honey." She paused, eyes on the horizon. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, holding on to this diner. But this place is—" She pressed a palm to the wall. "It's my memory of him. I know he's gone, but I can't leave." Alex studied her, a pang of empathy cutting through her usual emotional distance. She understood, clinging to something that felt like home. "I know," Alex said. "But these guys, Desert Vipers, or whatever they call themselves, who are they really?" Hannah shrugged. "Some sort of gang. They traffic stolen goods, maybe run guns. Word is their leader used to be with the CIA. I don't know the details." Alex's mind snagged on that snippet, ex-CIA. The man's stance, the way he scanned the diner, the tension in his eyes, it all fit some kind of paramilitary background. "You need help?" Alex asked quietly. Hannah's lips curled into a wan smile. "You're a sweetheart for offering, but you've got your own burdens." Alex averted her eyes, biting her lip. She had no illusions about being a savior. In her mind, she was the reason people died, not the one who saved them. Hannah reached out and squeezed her arm. "I just hope you find peace, child," she said. That night, Alex parked her rig behind the diner with Hannah's permission. She bunked in the small sleeper compartment. In theory, it was comfortable enough, but her mind refused to stay quiet. She dozed off around midnight, only to snap awake moments later, her heart pounding, drenched in sweat. In her dream, she saw the battered face of Vanessa, her younger sister, screaming for help in a tiny apartment. The walls collapsed into desert dunes, gun smoke replaced by the stink of cheap whiskey and rotting floorboards. Then the dream switched to Syria, her squad mates dying in flames. The nightmares overlapped into a single mosaic of guilt and helplessness. She pressed her palms to her temples, trying to steady her breathing. "I'm sorry, Ness," she whispered in the darkness. "I should have gotten there sooner." Vanessa had been a victim of domestic violence. Alex had been away on assignment, some black ops mission that demanded absolute secrecy. By the time she returned, it was too late. Vanessa died from her injuries. That guilt weighed more heavily than any war memory, overshadowing even the lost squad members in Syria. Eventually, her heartbeat slowed, and she drifted back into a restless sleep, haunted by the face of the sister she couldn't save. Morning brought a sweltering sun. Alex wiped her face, drained a cup of coffee offered by Hannah, and prepared to hit the road. She had a delivery to finish in Yuma. She couldn't linger too long, even though something in her gut told her she shouldn't leave the diner unprotected. She hopped into the cab, started the engine, and pulled out onto the deserted highway. The miles rolled by in relative silence, the desert sprawling in all directions. After about an hour, she spotted a car pulled off, the shoulder hazard lights flashing. Instinct told her to keep driving. Strange vehicles in the middle of nowhere spelled trouble. But as she passed, she caught sight of a woman frantically waving her arms. The woman's belly was unmistakably swollen with late-term pregnancy. "Damn it," Alex muttered. She checked her mirrors, then eased the rig onto the shoulder and hopped out. "Ma'am, you all right?" she called, scanning the surroundings for any sign of threat. "Please," the woman gasped, hands on her knees. "My car's dead. I think the baby's coming." Alex's heart lurched. "How far along are you?" 39 weeks, the woman whimpered, doubling over with a contraction. "Keys in the ignition?" Alex asked, peeking inside the dusty sedan. The woman nodded, panicked. Alex tried the ignition, no response. Could be the battery, could be something else. She quickly returned to the woman. "We need to get you to a hospital, or at least somewhere safe. The nearest town is—" The woman grimaced, tears in her eyes. "I don't think I'll make it." She sank to her knees, another contraction ripping through her. Alex looked around. The desert sun beat down mercilessly, and they were alone. "Hang on. I'll help you," Alex said, injecting calm into her voice. She helped the woman into the cab of the truck, adjusting the seat to recline slightly. She rummaged through a first aid kit. Though not a medic, Alex had field training from her Delta Force days. She could handle bullet wounds, broken bones, even assisting with childbirth, if absolutely necessary. Deep breaths, Alex coached. The woman's contractions were frequent, her water already broken. There was no time to drive anywhere. Alex's mind raced. She needed towels, water, something sterile. She grabbed the blanket from her bunk, the leftover bottled water, and any clean cloth she could find. "What's your name?" Alex asked, trying to keep the woman alert. Bethany Stevens." "Okay, Bethany, I'm Alex. You're going to be fine." As the contractions intensified, Alex slipped into an almost automatic focus. She talked Bethany through each wave of pain, urging her to push when the time came. The desert heat made everything more grueling, sweat dripping down Alex's face. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a baby's cry pierced the heavy air. Alex carefully wrapped the newborn, a baby girl, and handed her to Bethany's trembling arms. Tears streamed down Bethany's face, a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and sheer awe. "Thank you," she breathed. "Oh my God, thank you." Alex let out a shaky laugh, her heart pounding, as if she'd just come off the battlefield. "You did all the work," she managed. They sat in the truck's cab for a few moments, letting mother and child bond. Then Alex cleaned up as best she could, bandaging the umbilical cord with a tie from her kit. She offered Bethany sips of water, checking her vitals, hoping no complications lurked. "We'll need to get you to a clinic soon," Alex said. "But for now, you're okay. The baby's breathing fine. You did it." By the time a local tow truck came along and an ambulance was called, Alex had burned hours. She watched as paramedics took Bethany and her newborn away. The mother's tearful gratitude echoed in her mind, and a faint warmth of satisfaction bloomed in her chest, something she rarely felt these days. But she also realized she was critically behind schedule for her delivery. She called her employer to explain the situation, but the manager on the other end was unsympathetic, more concerned about losing a contract. "We can't use you anymore if you can't meet deadlines," the manager snapped. Alex bit her tongue. It was an emergency. A woman was giving birth. "That's nice," the manager retorted, "but I still have a job to do. And you just lost yours. Return the truck to the yard. We'll mail your final paycheck." The line clicked off. Alex stood there stunned. The moral satisfaction of helping Bethany warred with the crushing reality of losing yet another job. She thought of her handful of savings, her meager net worth. This was the cost of stepping off the sidelines. "Story of my life," she muttered, climbing back into the cab. She considered pressing on to Yuma, but her contract was already shot. The only place that felt remotely safe was the diner. She turned the rig around and headed back, the sun now searing in its midday fury. Approaching the gravel lot, she was immediately on alert. The diner windows were smashed in. One booth seat lay partially in the parking lot. The front door hung crooked on its hinges, battered as if struck by a crowbar. Her pulse spiked. She parked haphazardly and sprinted inside. The interior was in shambles. Tables overturned, shards of glass littering the floor, chairs broken. A black scorch mark on one wall indicated a small fire had been set and extinguished. "Hannah!" Alex yelled. Ray A. groan came from behind the counter. She vaulted over it, finding Ray slumped against the shelves, blood seeping from a cut on his temple. He blinked groggily. "Ray," she said, dropping to her knees. "What happened?" He grimaced, pressing a hand to his forehead. "Desert vipers. They came back. Wanted Hannah to sign some papers. She refused." "Where is she?" Alex scanned around, panic rising. "She's still here. She wouldn't leave. They roughed her up. But she's safe now. I tried to fight them off, but there were too many." With effort, he pushed himself upright, wincing. "We drove them off eventually, but not before they did this." He gestured at the destruction. Alex felt anger roil in her gut. She helped Ray stand, then found Hannah in the kitchen, trembling hands cradling her cheek, which bore a bruised swelling. "I'm okay," Hannah said in a shaky voice. "They tore everything up. We had a couple of truckers here. They helped chase them off." "We need to call the cops," Alex said. Ray gave a humorless snort. "We did." One squad car came, took statements, basically shrugged and said, "We're in a tough jurisdiction. Not enough manpower to do much. They'll file a report, that's it." An acrid taste coated Alex's tongue. So that was the reality: a remote diner, a weak police presence, and a gang with paramilitary discipline. The place was a perfect target. As they tried to clean up, an older SUV pulled up outside. A woman in her mid-30s stepped out wearing an open flannel shirt, over scrubs, a stethoscope draped around her neck. Her brown hair was tied in a loose bun, a professional aura radiating from her. "Hello," she called, stepping gingerly over broken glass at the threshold. "I'm Dr. Sarah Winters. I heard there was some trouble here." Hannah looked up relieved. "Sarah, thank God." Sarah set down a small medical bag on a nearby table, ignoring the chaos. She immediately went to Ray, checking the gash on his temple. "Sit still," she ordered. "Let me see this cut." Ray complied, though he looked slightly annoyed at being fussed over. Alex watched Sarah with cautious curiosity. Something about the doctor's posture or the focus in her expression stirred a vague sense of recognition. Sarah tended to Ray's wound, disinfecting and dressing it with practiced efficiency. Then she turned to Hannah's bruised cheek, gently palpating, to ensure no fracture. "Thank you," Hannah murmured. Sarah gave a curt nod. "Just doing my job." She straightened, turned, and her eyes locked on Alex. There was the barest flicker of surprise, or was it shock in Sarah's expression? "You look familiar," Sarah said, voice carefully neutral. "Have we met?" Alex crossed her arms, her defenses rising. "I don't think so." But that flicker in Sarah's eyes didn't dissipate. She studied Alex a moment longer. "Maybe I'm mixing you up with someone else," she finally said, though. She sounded unconvinced. "Sarah used to serve in Afghanistan," Hannah offered, stepping in to fill the silence. "She's been working at the local clinic for about a year." Afghanistan. A twinge of recognition sparked in Alex's mind. Her unit had occasionally overlapped with forward operating bases where Army medics served. Could it be? She quickly averted her gaze, not wanting to dig up more ghosts. As Sarah packed up her medical kit, she asked quietly, "So who did this?" "Any chance these are the men calling themselves Desert Vipers?" Ray nodded grimly. "They've been pushing Hannah to sell the diner. This time they trashed the place." Sarah's expression darkened. "Their leader, is he a tall man about 6'2" with short gray hair and a rattlesnake tattoo on his forearm?" Alex froze. That detail was oddly specific. Hannah nodded. "That's Crane. Victor Crane." Sarah inhaled. "I recognize the name. He's ex-CIA, or so rumor has it. But more than that, he was involved in Black Ops missions in the Middle East. I came across his file once when I was treating certain covert personnel." A shock ran through Alex. "He was in Syria," she murmured, more to herself than to them. Suddenly she remembered seeing him in passing, a shadowy figure in certain operations. The memory was fuzzy. Too many men in plain clothes, too many operations, bleached by the sun and secrecy. But it fit. Sarah's gaze flicked to Alex, a question in her eyes. "You said you didn't know him." "I don't," Alex said guardedly, though she suspected they might have crossed paths in some capacity. "It's not a coincidence," Sarah murmured. "If he's here harassing you," she looked at Hannah, "he wants this place for a reason. If it was just any diner, he wouldn't waste the manpower." Hannah gave a defeated shrug. "All I know is I'm not selling." The diner's lights were half functional now, and debris still littered the floor. As dust settled, the small group gathered in a corner booth, going over what had happened and what might be next. Ray wanted to fix the windows, but Alex convinced him to wait until morning. For now, they'd board them up. "You can't just stay here alone," Alex said. "They'll come back." Hannah's jaw set stubbornly. "This is my home. They can tear it down to the foundations, and I'd still be standing." Alex admired her resolve, but also feared for her safety. The memories of losing people who depended on her came roaring back. She swallowed hard, pressing the ball of her thumb into the old burn scar near her wrist. "I'll stay," Alex finally offered, "at least for a while." Ray and Hannah exchanged glances, a mix of relief and worry. "You don't have to," Hannah started, but Alex cut her off. "Yes, I do." At that moment, Sarah spoke up. "I'll come by the diner tomorrow to check on Hannah, make sure no major injuries were overlooked." Hannah smiled gratefully. "Thank you, dear." As Sarah slid out of the booth to leave, she threw one last look at Alex. There was something in her eyes, an unspoken recognition, a question. Then she was gone. Late that night, Alex found a quiet corner of the diner to roll out a makeshift bed. Ray insisted she take the small cot in a back storeroom, but Alex refused, wanting to keep watch from the front. She dozed in and out of consciousness, half expecting the Desert Vipers to smash through the boarded windows. Her dreams came anyway, unstoppable as the desert wind. This time it was Vanessa again, a swirl of images, a phone call left unanswered, a bruised face, a hospital corridor. And behind Vanessa's face loomed the visage of an American officer. The dream shifted, and that face wore a uniform with a name tag, Carrick. She awoke with a start, breathing hard. Major Elias Carrick had been her commanding officer in Delta Force. He was the one who gave her the final order in Syria to stand down to abandon the extraction point after it was compromised. That order led to a catastrophic outcome her entire team lost, or so she believed. She pressed her palm over her eyes. Why was she remembering Carrick now? At dawn, the sun spilled through the broken windows, glinting off shards of glass on the floor. Alex rose stiffly, her back aching from the uncomfortable makeshift bed. She set about helping Hannah clean up. Ray replaced a couple of boards, making sure the diner was at least partially secure. Around mid-morning, Dr. Sarah Winters returned as promised. This time she carried a satchel of supplies. Sarah said with gentle authority, "Let's check those bruises." Hannah obliged, though she insisted she felt fine. Ray hovered nearby, arms crossed, as Sarah examined the swelling on Hannah's cheek. Alex watched from a short distance, arms folded. When Sarah finished, she looked at Alex. "Your turn." Alex snorted softly. "I'm fine," Sarah shrugged. "Suit yourself. But if you have any injuries..." Alex shook her head. No use letting anyone see the scars she carried, both physical and otherwise. Sarah repacked her kit, then turned to Hannah and Ray. "I need to talk to Alex alone for a moment, if that's okay." Hannah and Ray exchanged curious looks, but left the room understanding that something personal might be about to surface. Sarah set her bag down on a table. "I'm not sure how to begin," she admitted. "I recognized your face, and I did some searching in an old file. There was a reference to an Reeves who served in a unit that crossed paths with CIA assets in Syria. That's where I saw Crane's name, too. He was part of a covert team." "And you?" Alex tensed, feeling the weight of her past press in on her. "Yeah, I was in Delta Force. We did some joint ops." Sarah pressed her lips together, swallowing. "My husband was in the Army. He died in Afghanistan. But his death was part of a black ops fiasco that linked back to Syria." She paused, voice trembling slightly. "I suspect you were there, or you might know who was." Alex felt a chill coil in her stomach. I don't know the specifics of your husband's mission." Sarah's eyes glistened with a swirl of pain and unresolved anger. "I came here to find answers. I requested a transfer to this region because I heard rumors that certain ex-operatives like Crane were surfacing in the Southwest. I never expected to find you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The desert sun outside seemed to intensify the tension in the air. "I'm sorry for your loss," Alex said quietly. "War is complicated. I can't give you the closure you might want." Sarah took a shaky breath. "Then at least help me stop him from whatever he's planning now. If it ties back to those black ops days, it's bigger than just a diner." Alex looked away, mind racing. She had tried so hard to outrun her past, but it kept catching up at every turn. Vanessa's death, the lost squad mates, the moral murkiness of certain missions. And now Sarah Winters, a woman whose husband died in tangential connection to her own operations. "He might be here for me," Alex admitted softly, "or for the diner as a cover for something else." Sarah nodded. "I'll do what I can to support you. I just needed you to know I'm not here by accident." Alex let out a long breath. "Thanks for telling me." They rejoined Hannah and Ray, the weight of fresh secrets in the air. As the afternoon wore on, the small group tried to restore some semblance of normalcy to the diner. They swept up glass-nailed plywood over the shattered windows, cleared the broken furniture. In the process, Alex's mind churned. Crane was ex-CIA, possibly ex-Special Ops, now leading a gang with potential ties to arms dealing. If he recognized Alex, he hadn't shown it directly. But maybe this was all part of a larger plan. At one point, Alex pulled Sarah aside. "If Crane's presence here is part of something bigger, we need to find out what. I can't let Hannah's diner become collateral." Sarah agreed. "I'll reach out to some old contacts quietly." Ray, overhearing, stepped in. "I'm with you. I don't trust the cops to fix this. If we're going to defend this place, we need a plan." Hannah watched them from across the room, her expression a mix of worry and gratitude. She said nothing, but the determination in her eyes was clear. Outside, the Arizona sun dipped lower, painting the sky in fiery oranges and reds. The diner stood battered but unbroken, a battered fortress on the edge of nowhere. And so began the formation of a tenuous alliance, driven by a shared goal: stand together, or risk losing everything to the encroaching darkness symbolized by Crane and his desert vipers. Yet overshadowing it all was the looming question of deeper betrayals and alliances, shadows from Alex's past in the form of her ex-commander, Major Elias Carrick, whose face had surfaced in her nightmares. And somewhere out in that desert, Crane was weaving his own designs fueled by a thirst for revenge. Unknowingly, they were all on a collision course drawn to the Last Horizon Diner, the place that would become a crucible of old grievances, unstoppable vengeance, and the possibility of redemption. That night, the wind whistled across the sands, and Alex sat alone at a corner of the diner, staring at the rifle she had unearthed from the bottom of her duffel bag. She vowed to herself that this time she would not fail the people under her protection. The following morning was crisp and clear, the desert sky, a brilliant blue stretching infinitely. The broken windows were now boarded up, the walls still scarred by graffiti, but a stubborn sense of resolve pervaded the diner's atmosphere. Alex, Ray, Hannah, and Sarah gathered around a table with a few other drifters, mostly veterans who passed through, men and women who recognized the signs of trouble and volunteered to help. Some had simple jobs or were traveling through the region. Others had been frequent customers. They had all heard about the attack on the diner and felt compelled to stand up. "We can't rely on the police." Ray began, arms folded over his broad chest. "And Hannah won't leave." A couple of the older vets nodded. "Damn right," muttered one, a middle-aged man who introduced himself as Dante, an ex-Marine with a prosthetic leg. "We'll defend this place," Alex said, stepping up to the makeshift map they'd drawn of the diner's layout and its surroundings. "But we need to be strategic. No unnecessary heroics." Sarah raised a hand slightly. "I'm here in a medical capacity. I'm not a soldier. But I'll help with first aid, whatever's needed." "Good," Alex nodded. "We'll set up some basic defenses, vantage points, early warning systems, bumpers or barricades in case they come in vehicles." Ray tapped the map. "We can rig a motion sensor at the perimeter, something that triggers an alarm inside." Hannah stood behind them, looking both grateful and overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. You're all risking a lot." Alex's gaze softened. "If we don't stand up here, they'll just move on to the next place. Sometimes a stand has to be made." They divided tasks. Alex oversee defense strategy, help set up improvised fortifications. Ray secure local firearms and coordinate with the other volunteer vets on guard duty. Hannah maintained the diner's function as best as possible, food, water, a place to rest. Sarah established a medical corner in the back storage room for potential injuries. They also planned an escape route, a hidden back door that led to a narrow ravine. If things got dire, Hannah and any non-combatants would flee. As the group worked through the day, a subtle bond formed among them, shared jokes between hammer swings, a sense of camaraderie reminiscent of old war buddies. But tension was also present, particularly between Alex and Sarah. During a break, Sarah caught Alex alone near the diner's side entrance, where Alex was aligning wooden panels into a makeshift barricade. "Need a hand?" Sarah asked, crouching to hold the boards in place. Alex exhaled. "Sure. Thanks." They worked in silence for a moment, hammering nails, wiping sweat from their brows. Finally, Sarah spoke quietly. "I want to apologize if I came on too strong yesterday, pushing about your past. I realize now you've got your own demons." Alex paused in mid-swing. "You have a right to want answers. But the truth is, even if I had them, it wouldn't change what happened." Sarah nodded, her gaze distant. "I know. But it's hard not to look for something or someone to hold accountable." Alex's throat tightened. "It's not just you. I lost a lot too. People I cared about. My sister. My squad." She forced the last sentence out, though her voice nearly cracked. Sarah studied her. "You were Delta, right?" Alex nodded. "We all had illusions once, fighting the good fight, saving lives. But war is never that clean." Sarah's eyes softened. "We do the best we can." Their moment was interrupted by Ray calling from across the lot, asking for Alex's input on a tripwire. The fragile conversation ended, leaving both women with unspoken thoughts lingering. Night came quickly in the desert, the temperature dropping sharply. The improvised defenses were in place, small tripwires connected to tin cans that would rattle if someone approached, a few vantage points with rifles, and even a pit of makeshift caltrops in a concealed trench near the front approach. The diner's interior lights were dimmed to reduce visibility from outside. Alex, Ray, and Dante took up positions by the boarded windows, scanning the darkness beyond. The air felt electric each minute, stretching painfully. Around midnight, they heard the distant roar of engines. Headlights cut across the desert landscape. 2 trucks and several motorcycles. The Desert Vipers had returned. "Get ready," Alex hissed, heart pounding, with an adrenaline spike reminiscent of old missions. The vehicles pulled up just shy of the diner's front lot. Engines idled. Figures moved in the darkness. A single voice rang out. "We're here for Hannah Parker. We know she's inside. We want her signature on a piece of paper. Surrender now and nobody gets hurt." Alex recognized the voice. Crane. She peeked through a crack in the boarded window. There he stood, tall and imposing, flanked by about a dozen men. "Come and get it," Ray shouted back, brandishing his shotgun. Crane sighed audibly, as if disappointed by the response. "Always the hard way," he muttered. He flicked a hand signal. What followed was a flurry of motion. A half-dozen Desert Vipers advanced, weapons drawn. But within seconds they stumbled upon the caltrops in the trench. Agonized yells echoed as 2 men went down, one of them howling as spikes tore into his boots. The others jumped back, cursing. In that moment of confusion, Alex and Ray opened fire, not aiming to kill, but to drive them back. Bullets pinged off the trucks and forced the Vipers to take cover behind their vehicles. "Fall back, regroup," Crane barked at his men, voice taut with anger. One of the Vipers pitched a Molotov cocktail which soared through the air, but fell short, exploding harmlessly against the sandy ground. "You want a war? You got one another," Viper shouted. For several tense minutes, gunfire was exchanged sporadically. The diner's defenders stayed low, using the boarded windows and the darkness inside as cover. The Vipers, uncertain of the extent of the booby traps, hesitated to rush forward. Finally, Crane called a retreat. "We'll be back," he growled, staring at the diner with smoldering hatred. Then, amidst revving engines, they withdrew into the darkness, leaving behind a couple of wounded men they hastily dragged to a truck. As silence settled once more, Alex let out a shaky breath. "We held them off." Ray nodded, adrenaline still surging. "For now." In the aftermath, they stepped outside to assess the damage. A bullet had punctured the diner's outer wall, but no serious harm was done. The boards held. Then Alex heard a faint groan from near the trench. She motioned for Ray to follow. Carefully, they circled around, guns at the ready. There, half buried in a shallow pit, was a wounded Desert Viper clutching his leg. A caltrop had embedded itself in his calf, and he was bleeding steadily. He must have been overlooked during the retreat. "Don't shoot," he rasped, dropping his gun in surrender. "I can't walk." Alex stared at him, mind flashing back to how many times she'd seen wounded men in war zones. She nudged his weapon away with her boot. "Stay still. We'll get you out of there." Ray scowled, but Alex gestured for him to help. They pulled the man out of the pit and dragged him inside to Sarah's makeshift medical corner. "We're not monsters," Alex said, more to herself than anyone else. "He's going to talk." Sarah set to work, face grim. "I'll treat him, but I won't let him walk out of here armed." "Fair enough," Alex replied. Under the influence of pain, the man who introduced himself as Rico spilled bits of information, though he was clearly holding back some details. "Crane's got big plans," he muttered through clenched teeth as Sarah removed the caltrop shard. "Bigger than just this diner." "What does he want here?" Alex pressed. "Control. A place to store merchandise, run shipments. The diner sits on a crossroads, people come in and out. Easy to move product." Ray glared. "Drugs?" Rico shook his head, eyes flicking around nervously. "Not just that. Weapons, some real nasty stuff." Alex felt a chill. "What do you mean, nasty stuff?" Rico swallowed. "Look, all I know is some package is coming in from overseas, something biological. Crane's been bragging it's worth millions if he can find the right buyer." A heavy silence descended. Ray cursed under his breath, and Sarah's hand shook a little as she bandaged the wound. "He's planning to traffic a bioweapon?" Alex asked, heart-thudding. Rico shrugged, pain etched across his face. "I'm not top brass, but that's what I overheard. Crane's hooking up with some foreign group. We're just the muscle." "This changes everything," Alex said, meeting Ray's alarmed gaze. Sarah stood, blood on her gloves. "The diner is just a stepping stone. We need to stop them." Hannah, hovering in the corner, looked pale as she whispered, "This is bigger than me or the diner." The next morning, dust still hovered in the air from the night's conflict. Alex, Ray, and Sarah debated what to do with the captured Viper. Hannah insisted they turn him over to the local police, but Alex feared the cops wouldn't keep him or they'd fail to connect the dots. As they argued, a sleek black SUV rolled up to the diner. Out stepped a man with a commanding presence. Tall, rugged hair peppered with gray. His posture screamed military discipline. Alex's breath caught in her throat. "Carrick," she murmured. Major Elias Carrick approached, flanked by two men in suits who looked distinctly federal or paramilitary. He wore civilian clothes, but his bearing and subtle insignia pin gave him away as something more. "Good morning," Carrick said in a measured tone. "I'm here on behalf of a classified task force. May I speak with Alex Reeves?" Alex stepped forward, forcing composure. "Major," she said stiffly. A faint smirk touched his lips. "Technically, I'm retired, but yes, that's me." He glanced around the diner's battered interior. "You've been busy. I heard about your run-in with the Desert Vipers." Sarah eyed him warily, picking up on the tension between the two. "We're handling it," Alex said curtly. "Why are you here?" Carrick folded his arms. "I'm representing certain interests in Washington. Crane is on our radar. We believe he's involved in an imminent arms deal, something highly dangerous to national security. We want him stopped," Ray scoffed. "So you show up now after we've done the dirty work?" Carrick ignored him, locking eyes with Alex. "We have an opportunity to end Crane's operation. I know your background, Reeves. You're one of the few who can do it. You help us bring him in, we clear your record. The fugitive status for your alleged AWOL incident wiped clean." Alex felt her pulse quicken, her jaw clenching. "I wasn't AWOL. I was set up." Carrick shrugged, not denying it. "Nonetheless, the official record says otherwise. Work with me and you get a fresh start. The charges vanish. You walk free." A swirl of conflicting emotions filled her: resentment, suspicion, but also the desperate desire for absolution. The promise of clearing her name was more tempting than she wanted to admit. "Why should I trust you?" Alex asked. Carrick offered a thin smile. "Because we both want Crane out of commission. And you know I have the means to do it." After a lengthy, tension-filled discussion, Alex reluctantly agreed to a provisional alliance with Carrick. She couldn't ignore the potential to stop Crane's bioweapon scheme and clear her record, ensuring she'd never have to run again. "Fine," Alex said. "But I'm not handing over the diner or these people. You do it my way, we keep them safe." Carrick nodded, though his eyes revealed an inscrutable calculation. "You have my word," he said, extending a hand. Alex hesitated before shaking it. In that moment, she felt a pang in her chest, memories of the trust she once placed in her commanding officer. The same officer who'd given the order to withdraw in Syria, leaving her squad to die. But she said nothing, swallowing her doubts. Sarah watched from a few steps away, arms folded protectively. Something in the way Carrick and Alex interacted sent alarm bells ringing in her mind, but she held her tongue. With intel from the captured Viper, who was bound and kept under guard, Alex and Carrick developed a plan to scout a nearby abandoned quarry. According to Rico, that was the Desert Viper's main hideout, the place where Crane was allegedly storing weapons and setting up the big deal. They decided on a small recon team: Alex, Ray, and two of Carrick's men. Sarah insisted on coming to provide medical support from a distance, though she wouldn't enter the quarry. "Wait here," Alex instructed Sarah. "Keep the engine running. If we're not back in an hour, get out and alert Hannah." The quarry sprawled like an old wound in the desert, a massive crater with steep rocky walls. Rusted equipment lay scattered around, relics of a bygone mining operation. Alex and Ray crept along the ridge, scanning the base of the quarry through binoculars. They spotted a half-dozen Desert Vipers patrolling, plus two large trucks parked near a makeshift warehouse. "Looks like they're getting ready," Ray whispered. "Could be the weapons." Alex's gut churned. If a bioweapon was down there, any confrontation would be high stakes. They moved carefully along the ridge, marking vantage points. Then one of Carrick's men signaled them to stop. They had found evidence of landmines or booby traps scattered near the edges. "Crane's not taking chances," Alex muttered. "We need accurate maps of this place." Carrick's man nodded. "We'll have satellite images soon. Let's keep going." They advanced another few yards. Suddenly, an alarm sounded below. The Vipers scrambled. Spotlights on tall metal pillars whirred to life, sweeping across the quarry walls. "They've spotted us," Ray hissed. Gunfire erupted from below, bullets pinging off rocks. Alex and Ray dove behind a boulder. The two agents returned fire, covering their retreat. "Fall back," Alex commanded, her tone sharp. They scrambled back, hearts pounding as the Viper's shots ricocheted. By the time they reached the vehicles, where Sarah waited, sweat drenched their clothes, and the recon had turned into a near disaster. Later that night, the group reconvened at the diner, poring over a printed satellite map provided by Carrick's men. It showed the quarry layout, roads, and key structures. Alex pointed to the southwestern corner. "We saw a warehouse here, probably where they're storing the weapons." Carrick nodded. "We can breach through the north side with minimal resistance if we time it right." But something felt off. As Alex traced the routes, she noticed a discrepancy. The path they'd scouted earlier didn't match the lines on the satellite map precisely. "That's odd," she muttered, brow furrowing. "The ridge where we got pinned down isn't marked as steep here. This is outdated or doctored." "Which is it?" Carrick's eyes flashed. "It's the best we have." "Are you questioning my intel?" Alex stiffened. "It almost got us killed." She tapped the map. "Look, if the data is old, we need new info. Otherwise, we're walking into traps." A tense silence fell. Ray gave Carrick a suspicious glare. Sarah's gaze flicked between them, picking up the friction. Carrick cleared his throat. "We'll update it. Let's not jump to conclusions. I'll have my people verify." Alex nodded slowly, but a kernel of doubt had been planted in her mind. The next day, Alex and Ray decided to do a quick supply run in a nearby town. They were gone for only a couple of hours, leaving Hannah, Sarah, and a couple of the other volunteer vets at the diner. When Alex and Ray returned, they found smoke rising in the distance. Her heart lurched. She stepped on the gas, the old pickup rattling over the uneven road. They skidded to a stop in front of the diner and what was left of it. Flames had devoured half the building, now largely extinguished, leaving charred beams and shattered windows. The neon sign lay smashed on the ground. "No," Alex shouted, jumping out. Ray was right behind her, shotgun at the ready. They found Hannah crouched in the parking lot, arms blistered and face streaked with soot, tears cutting muddy trails. She clutched her left hand, which was badly burned, flesh red and blistered. A paramedic from town was already on site tending to her. "They came again," Hannah sobbed. "A bigger group. Crane was with them." Alex scanned the wreckage. "Where's Sarah?" Hannah's eyes brimmed with fresh tears. They took her. She tried to protect me, but they knocked her out and dragged her away." Ray's face went pale. Damn it. The devastation was complete. Bullet holes riddled the walls, the diner's interior nearly gutted by fire. The volunteers who'd stayed behind were either injured or scattered. A few lay on makeshift stretchers. A message was scrawled on the single remaining outer wall in black spray paint, "One life for another. Come find us." Alex's vision tunneled with rage and guilt. She spotted movement behind a collapsed wall someone pinned. She hurried over only to find nothing but shattered debris. Then she found a battered note pinned to the twisted remains of a table. "You want her back? Bring yourself. No cops. Quarry at midnight. Peen." In the aftermath, as Hannah's burns were treated, Alex noticed something else. The approach had been well coordinated. The Vipers knew exactly when to hit while Alex and Ray were away. "They had intel," Ray said, voice thick with fury. "Somebody told them." Alex's eyes settled on the black SUV parked on the fringe of the lot. Carrick's men had arrived just minutes too late. That was becoming a pattern. She marched over to Carrick, who stood with arms folded, surveying the wreck. "You said you'd protect this place," she hissed. "Where the hell were you?" Carrick's expression was a mask of cool detachment. "We got here as soon as we could." "Crane moves fast." "Too fast," Alex snarled. "How'd he know I'd be gone? How'd he know Sarah was vulnerable? You gave us a faulty map, and now this." A flicker of irritation crossed Carrick's features. "Don't point fingers. We're dealing with a cunning adversary." But Alex knew the signs. Something in the pit of her stomach told her that Carrick was playing a deeper game. "Sarah is kidnapped because of you," Alex spat. "You'd better make this right." Carrick held her gaze. "We'll handle it. Crane won't leave the quarry. We have him cornered." Alex turned away, seething. She crouched near Hannah, who was wincing as a paramedic wrapped her arm. "I'm sorry," Alex whispered. "I promised I'd keep you safe." Hannah shook her head. "This isn't your fault. Crane wanted this. Don't blame yourself." But the guilt weighed heavily. Alex had let her guard down, relying on Carrick. Now Sarah was in danger, and the diner was nearly destroyed. Ray approached, his face grim. "We found something else near the back lot." He held up a small device scorched by the flames. A listening bug. They must have planted it days ago. Alex scowled. So they've been hearing our plans. That's how they knew when we'd be gone. Ray nodded. Probably how they timed the assault. We've got to assume they've heard everything. Alex clenched her fists, which means the only advantage we have left is unpredictability. We need to move on that quarry before midnight. Ray grimly agreed. But we need a plan to rescue Sarah without letting Crane slip away with the bioweapon. They checked with the volunteer vets. Most were too injured to fight again, or they'd lost confidence. That left just Alex, Ray, and a couple of diehards. Nightfall descended faster than they liked. The diner was in ruins, lit only by the flicker of a few functional bulbs powered by a generator. Hannah lay on a cot, her left arm fully bandaged, tears occasionally slipping down her cheeks when she thought no one was looking. Alex packed her gear methodically: assault rifle sidearm, extra magazines, a combat knife. She wore a pair of desert fatigues she had stashed away, her old uniform, minus the insignia. Ray checked his shotgun and a sidearm, tucking them into a duffel. He paused, his gaze drifting to Hannah, who had fallen into a painful sleep. I won't let them do this again, he said quietly. This place, it was my second chance at doing something good in life. Alex nodded. Same. Outside, Carrick was speaking on a secure radio. Alex caught snippets of the conversation, references to a strike team that would converge after midnight. Wait a minute, Alex murmured. She moved closer, eavesdropping. Carrick was telling someone, yes, once Reeves is inside, we'll seal off the perimeter. No survivors. That's correct. We can't afford loose ends. Her blood ran cold. She ducked away before he saw her. That son of a... She hissed under her breath. She hurried back to Ray. He's going to double-cross us. He plans to wipe out everyone in that quarry, Crane, his men, probably me included. Ray's face paled. What Alex nodded fiercely. He wants to bury the evidence of their Black Ops fiasco in Syria. I bet Sarah's kidnapping is the perfect bait. Once we're inside, he calls in an airstrike or something, cleans up all the messy details. Ray cursed, slamming his fist against the diner's broken counter. We can't let that happen. Sarah's in there. So are we. Alex grabbed Ray by the shoulder, her voice low and urgent. Listen to me. We can't involve anyone else in this. I'm going alone. Ray balked. No way. That's suicide. If Carrick sees a group heading in, he'll suspect we're up to something. He wants me, thinks he can pin everything on me. So I'll be the decoy. You stay here, gather the evidence of Carrick's betrayal, and if I'm not back in 24 hours... She trailed off, swallowing hard. Take it to the FBI. Blow the whistle wide open. Ray's eyes darkened with conflicted emotion. That's a hell of a plan, Alex. She forced a thin smile. It's our only chance to save Sarah and stop Crane. I'll do it quietly, slip in through any old tunnels or shafts that might connect to the quarry. I was Delta Urban. Infiltration tactics can adapt to this. Ray exhaled, nodding reluctantly. He clasped her hand in a firm grip. If you don't come back, I'm coming back, Alex interrupted, voice steely. Take care of Hannah. Promise me. His eyes shone with unshed tears. You got it. Close to midnight, Alex left under cover of darkness, avoiding Carrick and his men. She drove an old beat-up Jeep she'd borrowed from one of the volunteers, heading across the desert with its headlights off. She navigated by the faint moonlight in memory of the quarry's location. Finally, she parked a quarter-mile away, trekking the remaining distance on foot. She wore night vision goggles, scanning for guards. She found a neglected side entrance, an old mine shaft that bored into the rock at an angle. Slipping in quietly, she felt the weight of her rifle, the tightness of her chest. She was alone behind enemy lines. Inside, the air was stale and musty, laced with the distant hum of generators. She followed the faint flicker of fluorescent lights deeper into the tunnels, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. Occasionally, she heard the distant echo of voices. She emerged into a partially lit corridor that opened into a larger storage area. Through a gap in the rock, she glimpsed crates and barrels stacked in rows. This had to be Crane's stash. A guard patrolled, armed with an assault rifle. Alex waited for him to pass, then quietly took him down with a chokehold, easing his unconscious body to the ground. She confiscated his sidearm and radio, tucking them away. Her heart hammered as she pressed on. She had to find Sarah. She slipped behind a row of crates, hearing voices up ahead. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on her shoulder. She spun, bringing her rifle up, but Crane was faster. He batted the weapon aside, slamming her into the crate. Alex Reeves Crane, purred voice dripping with satisfaction. I was wondering when you'd show up. His men emerged from the shadows, guns trained on Alex. She breathed heavily, her body tense but outnumbered. Where's Sarah? She demanded through gritted teeth. Crane snapped his fingers. Two henchmen dragged Sarah into view. She was bound, bruised, but conscious. Relief flooded Alex at seeing her alive. I knew you'd come, Crane said, leaning in. After all, you left me to die once back in Syria. Remember our little Black Ops fiasco? Alex's eyes widened. That was an ambush. We both got out. You got out. I was captured and tortured. Crane growled, bitterness seething in his voice. By the time I escaped, everyone had written me off. CIA disavowed me. So I built my own empire. Sarah stared at Crane in horror. You're out of your mind, she spat. Let her go. Crane laughed coldly. You have no bargaining power, Doctor. But your presence has forced Alex's hand. He gestured to a steel box behind him. You know what this is? Alex's gaze flicked to it. A sealed containment unit labeled with biohazard warnings and cryptic codes. So it was true, the bioweapon. You're insane, Alex hissed. You can't possibly think you'll get away with selling that. Crane leveled a stare at her. I can, and I will. Once my buyers arrive, we'll make the exchange and vanish. But I want a bonus, first your life. Crane's men dragged Sarah to a metal post, securing her with zip ties. Nearby, a device beeped ominously, a timer counting down. Connected to the device was a canister that looked suspiciously like part of the bioweapon. If you move to save her, the bomb goes off, Crane said, grinning malevolently. If you don't, well, she dies when it detonates. One of my specialists rigged it to release the agent. Sarah's eyes widened in panic. Alex's mind raced. She was no explosives expert, but she had some knowledge. She needed to either disarm the bomb or free Sarah in time. Crane circled her. Let's see how you handle a no-win scenario. Maybe it'll remind you of Syria, your squad pinned down, no good choices. Only now you watch someone else you care about die. Fury and guilt flooded Alex. She clenched her jaw, scanning the bomb's mechanism from where she stood. She could see wires, a complicated circuit board. She had seconds to decide. She took a slow step forward, hands raised. If you kill her, your buyer might walk into a plague zone. That's not exactly profitable. Crane smirked. I have a remote kill switch. I'll keep it from spreading too far. Don't worry about my business model. You're psychotic, Alex snapped. This was Carrick's fault, not mine. Crane's face twisted. Carrick gave the order, but you followed it. You left me behind Reeves. He told me you'd already been extracted, Alex insisted. He lied to both of us. Crane's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but his anger quickly reasserted itself. Unable to stall further, Alex made her move. She lunged for the bomb's control panel. Crane's men rushed to stop her, but she pulled out a small multi-tool from her pocket, yanking at a crucial wire. A spark shot through the circuit. The device beeped rapidly, the countdown accelerating. She's setting it off, one of Crane's men yelled, panic in his voice. Fool! Crane snarled, darting forward to try to wrest control. In the confusion, Alex ducked a punch, slammed her elbow into one guard's face, and wrested his pistol away. Gunfire erupted wildly as another guard fired at her and missed. Amid the chaos, she managed to free Sarah's bonds with a quick slash of her knife. Sarah stumbled, nearly collapsing into Alex's arms. Get down, Alex yelled, dragging Sarah behind a heavy metal crate. The device beeped frantically, wires sparking. Crane cursed, barking orders at his men to secure the area. Alex dared a quick peek. The device was flickering out of control. She realized her sabotage might have been too hasty. If the bioweapon was released, no one would survive. We need to neutralize it for good, she told Sarah, rummaging through the guard's pockets. She found a small set of keys, possibly for the lock on the canister. I'll distract them, Sarah said breathlessly, still trembling. You handle the bomb. Alex looked at her in surprise. You sure? Sarah's eyes hardened. I'm done being a victim. Before they could enact the plan, a new wave of shouting erupted in the corridor. Carrick's men had arrived, guns blazing. The Desert Vipers returned fire. In the sudden onslaught, Crane's carefully orchestrated domain descended into chaos. We're being double-crossed, a Viper yelled. Alex realized this was Carrick's endgame storm, the hideout. Kill everyone, destroy the evidence. Shots ricocheted off the metal walls, some hitting the crates of weapons and scattering debris. Crane roared in fury, firing at both Alex and the new intruders. Nobody leaves alive. Taking the opportunity, Alex sprinted toward the bomb sliding behind the workbench. She began ripping open the containment panel. Her Delta Force training kicked in. She had once been taught basic EOD tactics. She had to isolate the trigger from the canister. Sarah, meanwhile, took a guard's taser from the ground and fired it at a Viper who was about to shoot Alex. The guard convulsed and dropped. "Nice shot," Alex shouted over the din. "I aim to save your life," Sarah replied, voice shaking but determined. Suddenly, the entire underground chamber rumbled. Through the haze of gunfire, Alex saw Ray barreling in, driving a battered pickup truck right through the entrance. The bed was loaded with improvised explosives, gasoline cans, rigged with makeshift charges. "Ray, what the hell are you doing?" Alex screamed, seeing him behind the wheel. He met her gaze through the shattered windshield, a mixture of resolve and sorrow on his face. "Carrick's men have this place surrounded. I'm not letting them bury you here." He slammed the truck forward, smashing into a guard post that housed the main control to the overhead blast doors. A massive explosion tore through the structure as the gas cans ignited. "Get out," Ray hollered in a final echoing cry. Then the vehicle erupted in flames, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The blast rocked the underground quarry debris raining down. The overhead lights flickered and died. Alex felt her heart seize as she watched Ray consumed by the fireball, his final act of defiance. "Ray!" she screamed, her voice lost in the roar. Sarah clung to Alex, tears streaming down her cheeks. "He saved us," she choked out. In the flickering emergency lights, Crane emerged from behind, Crate's blood trickling down his forehead, but his rage undiminished. He spotted Alex near the bomb. "You always in my way," he snarled, lifting his rifle. They faced each other across the chaos. Alex raised her pistol, a flame of vengeance in her eyes, for Ray, for Hannah's diner, for everything Crane had destroyed. They fired almost simultaneously. Crane's bullet grazed Alex's shoulder, sending pain lancing through her. Her shot hit him in the side, staggering him, but he pressed on, fueled by fury. In close quarters, the firefight turned into a brutal melee. Crane knocked the pistol from Alex's hand, swinging a vicious punch that connected with her jaw. She retaliated with an elbow strike to his wounded side, making him grunt in agony. Across the chamber, Sarah crouched behind a crate, focusing on the bomb. She tried to steady her shaking hands, recalling the steps Alex had begun. She yanked the main fuse from the device's control panel. The timer flickered and stopped, halting the immediate threat of a biological release. "Alex," Sarah cried. "It's disarmed." Alex took a knee-dazed, blood dribbling from a cut on her temple. Crane loomed over her with a knife. "You cost me everything," he seethed, raising the blade. With a last burst of strength, Alex kicked upward, knocking the knife from his hand. She scrambled to her feet, hooking her arm around his neck in a chokehold. He struggled violently, but the earlier gunshot wound sapped his power. For a moment, she had him pinned. The old soldier in her roared to finish the job. Her mind flashed back to her sister, her squad, Ray. "No more," she breathed, releasing Crane. He slumped, gasping. In that second of hesitation, he lunged for a fallen pistol. Before he could fire, a shot rang out. Sarah stood with a guard's pistol in her hand barrel, smoking. She had just saved Alex's life. Crane collapsed, clutching his chest, eyes wide. Alex, panting, stared at Sarah in shock. Sarah's hands trembled on the gun. "He was going to kill you," she whispered. I had to." Crane lay dying, blood pooling beneath him. He coughed, glaring at them both. "Carrick. He betrayed us." All he managed before his eyes glazed. Then Sarah sank to her knees, sobbing in a mixture of relief and horror at what she'd done. Alex crouched beside her, wrapping an arm around her. "It's over," Alex whispered. "You saved me. You saved all of us." Sarah shook her head. "There's more I have to tell you. My husband died in Syria because of a call for an airstrike. The map was incorrect. We were pinned down. He never stood a chance." Alex's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted. I blamed you," Sarah admitted, voice hoarse. "Your name came up in the mission logs as part of the team. I thought you gave the order, but it was Carrick all along. He manipulated everything." The weight of the truth pressed down on Alex. She gently squeezed Sarah's shoulder. "He's the real monster. We need to expose him." Eventually, they stumbled out into the dawn light. Carrick's men had pulled back, presumably waiting for the final word. But word had already reached the FBI Ray's plan. He had set a timed release of all the evidence, recorded phone calls, documents, confessions from the captive Viper to the local field office in case he died. FBI vehicles swarmed the quarry, sirens blaring. Agents in tactical gear secured the site. Alex and Sarah emerged battered and bloody, cradling the sealed bioweapon canister. Carrick appeared stepping out of his SUV, face twisted in anger and disbelief as the FBI pointed guns at him. "You're making a mistake. I'm a patriot," he shouted. "Stand down, Major," the lead FBI agent ordered. "We have evidence of treason and conspiracy. You're under arrest." Carrick's eyes flicked to Alex, pure venom in his gaze. She stared back unflinching. Wreckage lay everywhere. Dead or wounded Vipers were taken into custody. The canister was secured in a containment vehicle. Alex clutched her left ear, which was bleeding from a piece of shrapnel that had ripped through it in the explosions. She realized with a jolt of horror that part of her ear was gone. Sarah limped, her ankle twisted. She refused the paramedics' attempt to carry her, insisting on walking. They looked around for any sign of Ray, but the inferno he'd created had left no doubt he was gone. Hannah's diner was destroyed. A handful of local townspeople had been killed or injured. "We lost too much," Sarah murmured. Alex nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "We saved each other, though, and maybe we stopped something worse from happening." In the swirl of official vehicles and forensic teams, the FBI agent in charge approached them. "We'll need your statements, but from what we see, you two prevented a major terror threat." Alex was numb. She didn't care about medals or recognition, only about the people who'd fallen. 6 months passed like a blur. In that time, the skeletal remains of the Last Horizon diner were cleared away, leaving only a scorched foundation. Hannah, her left hand permanently disfigured by burns, used the insurance payout and a flurry of community donations to start rebuilding. Alex vanished for a while, haunted by guilt and the memory of Ray's sacrifice. She had no illusions of a hero's welcome. The FBI quietly dropped any charges related to her alleged AWOL, acknowledging that she'd been under false orders. Carrick's eventual trial would reveal the depth of his betrayal. Meanwhile, Sarah stayed in the local area, volunteering as a doctor for the underserved population along the border. She and Hannah kept in touch, forging a bond born of shared trauma. The reopened establishment was no longer a simple diner. Beneath a new sign reading Last Horizon Veterans Aid and Shelter, Hannah transformed it into a refuge. Walls were repainted, not with grease-resistant coating for a kitchen, but with murals of sunsets and footprints in the sand, an homage to the many journeys that led people here. Inside, bunk beds took the place of old booths. A small kitchen area still served hot meals, though not for paying customers. Instead, it offered free food to homeless vets and travelers. Hannah, despite her injuries, found a new outlet for her creativity: painting. She discovered that she could teach art classes to fellow veterans, encouraging them to express their stories on canvas. With her right hand intact, she adapted to using special brushes. "I used to feed people's bodies," Hannah would say to visitors. "Now I feed their souls." Sarah Winters became a fixture at the new Last Horizon. She set up a small clinic in one corner, offering basic medical services, treating sprains, checking blood pressure, prescribing medication for PTSD-related anxiety. Locals began to call her Doc Winters, respecting her willingness to work in an area most doctors avoided. She accepted donations rather than charging fees, living off a modest stipend from a veteran assistance program. The memory of her husband lingered in her heart, but she felt a sense of peace in her new mission. Helping veterans who'd been cast aside by the system was a way to honor his sacrifice. One evening, Hannah was locking up the supply shed behind the building when she saw a lone figure approach from the desert. The dying sunlight outlined the figure's silhouette, and her heart caught. "Alex," she called softly. The figure stepped into the lantern's glow. Alex Reeves, hair a bit longer, wearing faded jeans and a dusty jacket, a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked thinner, her face etched with the lines of weary travel. A bandage covered part of her left ear where the old wound had never fully healed. "Hey, Hannah," Alex said, voice subdued. For a moment they just stood there. Then Hannah opened her arms and Alex stepped into a careful hug, mindful of Hannah's burned hand. "I wasn't sure I should come back," Alex admitted, "but I had nowhere else to go." Hannah's eyes were moist. "This is home. Always has been. Always will be." Inside, the new facility smelled of fresh paint and sawdust. The old fryers and countertops were replaced by tables lined with medical supplies, pamphlets about PTSD counseling, and free coffee urns. Alex wandered the halls, feeling the echoes of what once was. She almost expected to see Ray perched on a stool, or the old jukebox in the corner. Instead, she found bulletin boards filled with flyers about support groups and job listings for veterans. "A lot's changed," she said softly to Hannah, who walked beside her. "For the better," Hannah replied, though her voice carried a hint of sadness. She showed Alex a mural on the wall, a phoenix rising from flames ringed by the words, "In memory of Ray Mitchell." Alex reached out, tracing the painted lines with her fingertips. "He'd have liked that," she whispered. Sarah was finishing up an evening shift in the small clinic when she looked up to see Alex in the doorway. "You came back," Sarah said, relief and caution mixing in her tone. Alex nodded. "Needed to see if I could help." Sarah's eyes flicked to the bandage on Alex's ear. "You still not healing, right?" Alex shrugged. "It's mostly scar tissue now. The hearing's partially gone on that side. I'll manage." Sarah gestured for Alex to sit, checking the dressing with a gentle touch. "I'm sorry you were hurt," she whispered, sincerity in her gaze. For a long moment they were silent, the tension of the past still present. Alex finally spoke, voice low. "I never got to say thank you for saving my life back in the quarry, or for clearing my name." Sarah set down her tools. "You saved me too, more times than I can count. We're even." Alex swallowed, remembering the swirl of bullets the explosion raised sacrifice. "I'm staying for a while if that's okay. Maybe I can help other vets. People like me." A soft smile touched Sarah's lips. "That's what we do here now. You'll fit right in." The next day, Alex walked in on one of Hannah's art sessions. Half a dozen veterans sat around tables painting or sketching quietly. Some had physical wounds, amputations, or visible scars. Others had invisible wounds, haunted eyes betraying PTSD. Hannah demonstrated brush techniques using her healthy right hand and a specialized brace for her burned left. She coaxed them to express themselves. "Doesn't matter if you can't draw a straight line," she'd say. "Emotions don't come in straight lines anyway." Alex stood in the doorway, feeling oddly self-conscious. She'd spent years training to shoot, to fight, to survive, never to create. But the scene touched her deeply. One younger vet with a prosthetic arm tried to hold a brush, trembling with frustration. Alex quietly approached and offered assistance, adjusting the grip. "Thanks," the vet mumbled. "I'm not any good at this." "Me neither." Alex said, a small grin forming, "But Hannah's got a way of making it okay." Hannah caught Alex's eye, giving her a fond smile. Days turned into weeks. Alex settled into a routine, helping around the facility, fixing broken doors, assisting with supply runs, sometimes standing watch at night for newly arrived vets prone to nightmares. One evening, she found a man in his early 30s, eyes wide with panic, cowering in a corner of the hallway. He wore a tattered Marine jacket and reeked of old sweat and fear. "Hey," Alex said softly, crouching to his level. "What's going on?" He flinched, breathing ragged. "He was behind me. Had a knife. Can't sleep." Alex recognized the signs of a severe flashback. She'd had them herself. Carefully, she set a hand on his shoulder. "You're at the last horizon. You're safe now." He blinked, tears in his eyes. "I see it. Every night. My unit. The bomb. They never made it out." The raw anguish in his voice tore at Alex's heart. She drew on her own experiences. "Breathe with me," she said, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly. "Keep your eyes on me. We're here in the present. That's all we need right now." Gradually, his breath steadied. She helped him to his feet, guiding him to the clinic where Sarah administered a mild sedative. Before he drifted off, the man managed a weak smile at Alex. "Thank you," he whispered. Alex's throat tightened. She remembered the times she'd woken from her own nightmares alone and trembling in a truck's sleeper cab. "No, thank you for trusting me," she murmured. Late that night, Alex stood on the front porch of the facility, a new wooden deck Hannah had built for gatherings. The desert sky gleamed with stars, and a gentle breeze stirred her hair. She sipped black coffee, the taste bitter but comforting. She closed her eyes, letting the desert stillness envelop her. Memories of the past flickered across her eyelids, the humiliating discharge, the old diner, the battle at the quarry. Ray's final smile, Crane's twisted grin, Sarah's tear-streaked face. Now she understood that her life had come full circle. The desert, once the place of her nightmares, had become her anchor to a sort of redemption, helping others navigate the same demons she fought. "You all right?" came Sarah's voice from behind her. Alex opened her eyes. Yeah, she said softly. Just thinking. They stood side by side, gazing at the star-studded sky. The FBI asked if we'd testify against Carrick in the trial Sarah mentioned. You going to? Alex nodded. He can't get away with what he did. He caused countless deaths both at home and overseas. Sarah placed a gentle hand on Alex's shoulder. I'm glad you're here. We need you. Alex didn't respond with words, but she reached up and covered Sarah's hand with her own, a silent acknowledgement of their bond. With each passing week, Hannah's art program flourished. Local volunteers, even some from out of state, came to help. The big communal hall buzzed with conversations about healing therapy and shared traumas. The clatter of pots and pans was replaced by the soft hush of paintbrushes and quiet camaraderie. Despite her disfigured hand, Hannah never lost her warmth. She'd walk around offering gentle critiques or words of encouragement. Sometimes her eyes would drift to the empty corner where a plaque honored Ray. She didn't cry as often now, but the sorrow never fully left her. When an interviewer from a local newspaper visited, Hannah told him, "People think the desert is empty, but out here we have everything we need if we look for it. Hope can bloom in even the harshest soil." Meanwhile, Sarah found herself dealing with an unexpected emotional shift. She had spent so long wanting revenge or justice for her husband's death, blaming an unseen enemy. Now that she knew the truth that Carrick orchestrated so much, forging false maps, giving lethal orders, the anger was still there, but it was tempered by the ongoing process of helping others heal. She realized how much the pursuit of vengeance had consumed her, and how it nearly cost her everything. While she continued to work with the FBI, providing medical records and testimony, she decided to channel her energy into saving lives. That was what her husband would have wanted, she told herself. One day near noon, a black sedan rolled up to the facility. A middle-aged man in a suit stepped out. Alex noticed the tension in Hannah's posture, as if half expecting more trouble. The man identified himself as FBI Special Agent Monroe. He had a calm demeanor and kindly eyes, though they sparkled with a sense of official purpose. "Ms. Reeves," he asked, spotting Alex. "I'm here about the upcoming trial. I thought we could finalize your witness statement." Alex nodded, showing him inside. They sat at a small table near the clinic, away from the bustle. Monroe explained how Carrick's trial was shaping up. He's fighting the charges, claiming patriotic motives. But the evidence is overwhelming, especially your testimony. Your presence in the quarry, the rescued hostages, the recovered bioweapon. That's open and shut. Alex exhaled. He'll probably say we were all traitors. Monroe's lips thinned. He can say what he wants, but we've got him. I'm sorry we couldn't intervene sooner. She gave a wry smile. Legal justice always arrives late, doesn't it? He nodded ruefully. We do what we can, Ms. Reeves. At least it's here now. Weeks later, the trial concluded, with Carrick receiving multiple life sentences. Crane was officially declared deceased, his body identified among the dead in the quarry. The Desert Viper's ring was dismantled. Alex testified calmly and stoically, describing the infiltration, the hostage situation, the sabotage of the bomb. She left the courthouse feeling a curious emptiness. Carrick's condemnation didn't resurrect Ray, nor the squad mates lost in Syria, nor her sister Vanessa, but it was a step toward closure. Back in Arizona, the Last Horizon facility thrived. Slowly, word spread among the veteran community, and more arrived, some seeking shelter, others volunteering to help. Hannah taught them painting, overcame her grief through creating new life on canvas. Sarah provided medical care, found new purpose in healing invisible wounds. Alex drifted in the background, fixing broken sinks, driving supply trucks, occasionally stepping in to talk a fellow vet through a flashback. One day a battered pickup arrived. A young man stepped out, wide-eyed posture, stiff with unspoken fear. He wore a Marine uniform jacket, filthy with dust. Alex was wiping down a table in the common area. She looked up, caught his gaze. The same lost expression she'd seen in her own reflection for years. She set the rag aside, walked over, and offered a small, kind smile. "Hey," she said softly. "Welcome. I'm Alex." He swallowed hard. "Don't know where else to go," he muttered, voice quivering. She nodded. "You came to the right place. Let's get you something to eat, find you a bunk. Nobody here is going to ask you where your scars came from." He blinked, relief flooding his face. Alex guided him to a table, motioning for Hannah to bring some water. She caught Sarah's eye and the two shared a meaningful glance. There in the last wild place on the highway, they had built a sanctuary for those lost in the desert of their own minds. Out of the ashes of betrayal, violence, and grief, they had forged a new horizon, one that offered compassion, understanding, and a chance to heal. The desert remembers everything, every bullet fired, every promise shattered, every soul abandoned beneath its merciless sky. Out here, justice comes as rarely as rain, and betrayal cuts deeper than canyon walls. Flames rise and fall, whispering vengeance into ashes and bitter truths. I've wandered this scorched earth long enough to learn one brutal lesson: those who hunt monsters risk becoming the very thing they despise. But sometimes choice is an illusion. Sometimes the past you buried claws its way back from the grave, demanding blood sacrifice and a reckoning long overdue. When that day arrives, when your nightmares finally catch up, the only way out is straight through hell itself.